What's going on, guys? Waco from Revolution here with Antoine Pin from Bulgari, and we're going to go through some of the recent new releases, including one very, very special watch that set an incredible world record. But first, Antoine, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine, thank you, fine.
Yes. Excellent.
Great fair, so great mood.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
We've got still a few days, but that's going to be fine. Maybe we can start with the 10th anniversary.
Please.
Celebration watch. So, 10 years ago we did the Octo, we started the Octo collection, and 8 years ago the Octo Finissimo, and 6 years ago the Octo Roma. The whole story. Now we are celebrating the 10th anniversary with this limited edition of Octo Finissimo, so 2 times 200 pieces, a watch and a chronograph. Mm-hmm. And the specificity of this watch, it's basically the initial model, except that we changed the dial slightly.
Right.
So we replaced the standard dial with actually retranscription of the initial sketch.
I mean,
if you celebrate a birthday,
yes,
you celebrate a birth. And what is the birth of a watch if not the first sketch of the watch?
Correct.
And so that was when we asked Fabrizio and said, how do we celebrate those 10 years? He said, well, why don't we put the sketch? It's something that he probably, I remember he talked to me about a while ago, and he had that in mind. He said, well, maybe that's the right moment to do it. So it's a bit provocative, because I don't think it's been done, to put something that doesn't look neat, mm-hmm. but it's actually quite fun, and I like the paradox to bring something that's not finished in it. And in reality, it was quite complex to do because,
really?
Yeah, because if you make it too blurred, yes. Like it's not very. It looks like it's not finished.
Right.
If you clean it up too much,
it doesn't look like it's a drawing anymore.
Exactly,
right,
exactly. But anyway, so that's the celebration of the 10 years, right. And of course we have with this we have our 8th world record that we're going to show in a couple of minutes.
Yes.
But this is also an opportunity for us to review our 8 world records of Octo Finissimo and to present new expressions of some of the pieces.
Yeah, and I would imagine by this point they're like massively oversubscribed, right?
Yes.
So how do you manage like the waiting list? How do you manage the frustration? How do you manage the discrepancy between the vast number of people who want to buy the watches and the number of pieces you're able to produce? Right?
There's no miracle. Okay,
right.
If there's over demand, you have to deal with frustration.
Right.
And it's extremely complex.
Yes.
Frankly, it's extremely complex. What we've implemented is first one central point
right.
of allocation, so that basically we take demands and we bring them to the central point of allocation. Right. Then the decision about who to get the watches is not about first in, first served, because it's unfair. Because some people get the information earlier, some people have access to the information earlier than others. So in reality, there are some rules of allocation, and without getting into the details of those rules, clearly we give priority to the people who have been faithful to us over the last years.
Which is very fair.
Okay. Yeah. Then we try to be balanced in terms of territories, in terms of partners as well. It's a complex equation, which eventually leaves many people unhappy. So what we try to do is actually to minimize the number of limited edition, not to have too many. For instance, those 2 pieces here are not limited edition. They are anyway limited in production.
Right.
We have a limited capacity of production of those 2 complications. This is a new platinum interpretation of our chronograph tourbillon.
Wonderful.
World record that we made in titanium, so it's a precious version of it.
I love that watch.
It's a beautiful one.
Incredible.
But it's an evergreen, what we call an evergreen.
Yes.
So it's produced in basically 15 to 20 pieces a year, mm-hmm. But it's not limited. So you may wait, but at least you have access to it.
I feel that that's actually the right thing to do. It's funny, I was having conversations with everyone from Max Buser to Cyril Vigneron, and I think the conclusion people come to is that, limited editions will become less, and what they'll focus on are watches that have, are iconic and have a huge demand for them, and I guess will be perennial.
Absolutely.
Right, but are limited by the number you're able to produce, and I think that's really cool.
We've had the very big danger is that you sell this limited edition, the demand is such that you feel you have to do another one.
Correct.
And then the problem is the design that was the initial one probably in many times, many times, is the best one.
Yes.
You're trapped. So you do something that is not the same, but
Right.
slightly the same. The people who purchase the first limited edition feel a bit trapped.
Yes.
So there is a kind of promise that you need to respect.
Yes.
And so it's unfair somewhat.
Indeed.
And so we try as much as possible to avoid this. So we unfortunately, we were trapped in a way with this minute repeater, which is also now the evergreen version of the limited edition, which was the very standard titanium and titanium piece.
Indeed.
So we didn't want to show the same perspective because it was, I mean, again, it would have been unfair to the first purchasers.
Of course.
So that's why we have a different version as well of this minute repeater, which was sold out.
Amazing. Antoine, talk to me a little bit about, because I love the fact that, and I always associate it with like the first exhibition of Impressionist paintings, right? And like this happened, and then people went there, and a lot of people got it, but a lot of people were like, right?
Yeah.
And then it took them like a year or two, and then they were finally like, oh my God, this
Yeah.
is fuse, right?
Yeah.
And I remember, I feel like in 2014 when you guys unveiled Octo Finissimo, I remember as soon as I saw it, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn in terms of like having great taste, but the fact that I liked your watch means it's not bad, right? And I was like, this is going to be revolutionary, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be a new icon. The way that it's integrated all of the métiers that you've mastered to create something so extraordinary, both mechanically but also from the design perspective. It's really the modern icon of the new era. And then now, or I would say a couple of years ago, but certainly now, like everyone, there's like 100% of like approval rating.
Yes, no, absolutely, absolutely.
How does that feel, and then how does that affect your distribution strategy?
First, I think, the reason for the success, it's the fact that from the very first beginning, the people with a true experience in watchmaking, a real one, they liked it.
Yeah.
I mean, you liked it. A couple of retailers that I have in mind, Laurent Picciotto, Kamine in Japan.
Right.
The people, Kamine is the president of the Federation of the watch dealers in Japan, and he's really a famous person there.
Right.
They immediately saw the product, and there is this this perception that there is something different, and that, and the people within Bulgari that are coming from the watch industry, we could feel there was something.
Right.
So there is this conjunction of initial feelings that were super positive that built the confidence to continue the journey, even if it was just within the first circle. Then year after year, the circle expanded, as you said, and clearly there is a moment of a turning point, and this is a point for us. Mm-hmm. The thing is, our distribution is rather limited. Okay, we've got basically 300 points of sales, own directly operated stores, and then we've got 300 partners. We didn't change this so far, and I don't expect us to change it massively. But we are very cautious on the way we are, let's say, providing the pieces to the retailers, which means that in partnership with them, we monitor strictly the sales in order to allocate the stocks according to their own pace of selling, in order to make sure that we don't have the wrong stock allocation, and you see retailers with more, retailers with less.
Yes.
Let's be clear, the partners like Laurent, who were here with us since the beginning, we try to remember that as well. I mean, the whole watch industry is about long term, and that's true also in the business relationships.
Yeah, I see that. I know he's going to have a second edition of the Mo Capoletta watch.
That's a secret.
Oh, really?
That's a good teasing.
He might. I don't know. Maybe.
If he gets 100 phone calls tomorrow, I'll blame you.
Maybe cut that.
I know, that's fun.
Oh, really? Okay.
Let's end this joke.
But I also love the fact that he has been always like an evangelist for the Finissimo, right?
Amazing.
Like, I mean, he has spread the gospel of it.
Yeah.
He wears it himself.
Yeah.
I remember when I interviewed him, and he said at some point he sold his entire watch collection, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Because he sold it very publicly on I think one of the big auctions, and then he had to start from the beginning, right? And he basically created a collection that comprised primarily of Octo Finissimos, right?
Absolutely.
Which I think is amazing. And he talks about how he rides motorcycles. He got up one day and he put on his jacket and he got on his motorcycle. He went for a long ride, and then he thought on the ride that he'd forgotten to put his watch on until he took his jacket off and he realized his Finissimo's one is on his wrist, because that's how ergonomic and comfortable it is.
Exactly.
As well, right.
And by the way, Mr. Caminet only wears Octo Finissimo.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the same reason. It's so comfortable and so different.
Yes.
And so noticeable by others while you forget it.
I like that.
And I like it because this is exactly how it feels. And to be fair, when this is how I feel as well. It's a very comfortable. But you know, it's interesting because when you think of where it's coming from, this notion of what is Italian elegance, and it's this notion that, like the tailoring, it's Italian tailoring is light, is supple, is comfortable, and it's someone told me that it's for hugging.
Yes. 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 Whereas
British tailoring is for
stiff.
Exactly. But in that sense, I think that's what the watch is about.
Yeah.
You're comfortable with it. And elegance never comes when you're stiff.
It has to be effortless.
It has to be effortless, and that's probably one of the reasons why people like it, because it's clearly a sign of an attitude and an expression of a certain appetite for some beautiful artifact,
right?
But worn in a very comfortable way.
Very cool. Way. So Antoine, let's go from these wonderful models that have celebrated the 10th anniversary of the Octo to a watch that I think blew everyone's mind, set a new world record, and basically unleashed a whole new era for Bulgari. Let's talk about the Ultra, sir.
Yeah. So here it is.
Whoa. I love how you present it on a fly. You can't even tell if it's actually there,
So that's the watch. Probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, because this is the idea afterwards.
Wow. So again, a world record, incredible innovation in terms of how it's constructed. I love the fact that it's an integrated bracelet. It makes it actually wearable and really fun to wear as well. Talk to me about what this represents for Bulgari in terms of the price category and the innovation, and also what the response has been after you launched the watch in Rome. Because I think you have 10 pieces. But
we have many more demands.
Let's start with that then.
So the piece is let's say this 10 years ago when we presented the Octo Finissimo, the first Octo Finissimo 8 years ago, clearly this was not necessarily the trend of the market.
Right.
Very slim watches. Since then, it's been a progressive direction of the premium, the luxury industry in watches.
Right.
And the last 3 Aiguille d'Or are related to ultra slim watches.
Exactly.
The last 3 ones.
Right.
And by the way, the 2 years ago it was l'Aiguille d'Or. 2 years ago, l'Aiguille d'Or was given to Piaget.
Right.
For their previous world record.
Yeah.
And clearly they are a competitor.
Well done. Yeah, exactly.
They are a competitor, but they are a super inspiration.
Yeah.
Because probably we would never have gone that far if they had not presented their own world record.
Absolutely.
And from all sorts of ways, and they've inspired us, and showed us things to do differently, but we wanted to try and challenge this world record. And
you got the profile right, man. Show how thin it is. You can even take it up in your hand and just show it.
Yeah, probably it's easier if you take it. Take it up. It's really.
Don't run away with it.
The thing we had in mind was, if we do a watch that is thinner, it has to be very comfortable. We have to keep the ergonomy that we had. I would say it has to be precise. It has to have a long power reserve.
Yeah.
It has to be wearable at any moment.
And usable as well.
And usable
normally.
Exactly. It's not just a piece of art.
It's not a concept.
It's not a concept.
Right.
And so anyway, that's how we started, and and we came up with this idea of a fully horizontal plan for the project itself. So there is not one component that is positioned in a vertical way.
Right. That's cool.
Then a regulator, which of course implies that you only have one hand on every dial, and that's the way you're going. When you want to go thinner, you have to minimize the superposition. Obviously, working on many modular structures with multiple functions. So the back of the case is also the plate of the movement, and finding ways to diminish the dimensions of the components as well. So we got there. clearly had to go through multiple challenges in terms of making sure we create our own path, not following anyone else, let's say, patents or processes, so having our own direction. And so we are now with this 1.8 millimeter watch, and then with also some specific element with the watch. One of the marks of the product, which is quite special, is this rochet with a big QR code on it. Actually, the idea starting with Fabrizio, the head of our studio, dealing with this big rochet that gives us between 50 and 60 hours of power reserve, but which is of course taking a large part of the face of the watch, and that we need to. That you would never leave a space empty in the hands of Fabrizio. Okay, this is impossible. And then between the different things coming around in these days, there was this idea of why don't we bring a QR code on the rochet? And you'd be surprised, but clearly Fabrizio has in the back of his mind all the connection to the digital, etc. And more importantly, the notion of traceability and individuality of the product. So QR code would be individual. But he also had a great design perspective on the QR code. He said, you know, a QR code, it's a round shape made of squares. While the Octo Finissimo is a square made of round shapes. So actually, the QR code is a concept that fits with Octo Finissimo. They're meant to be together. So it works from a design perspective, which I love because it's something that it's a perspective that you would not necessarily think of immediately. But then, of course, it's a great door to a different dimension. And as much as we were losing the dimension of the depth, we thought that's great because you're opening up a complete field that allows the customer or whoever is actually scanning the QR code to enter a digital site where he will have access to multiple experiences related to the watch. And therefore, you bear with you, when you're wearing the watch, you bear with you the story of the watch itself. And even some specific art creations, digital art creations, like a VR experience, like an actually NFT art piece, and also some the actual elements of identification of the piece, which is the certificate of ownership on the blockchain. So all the new technologies that we are experimenting, that we can bring in with an analog watch, but actually without getting away from this modernity.
That's incredible.
So it's not just the world record, it's a complete field of experimentation of plenty of things to bring a different experience to people who like watchmaking.
Incredible. Well, congratulations on that. I also love the fact that I'm sorry, remind me the price of the watch?
440,000 euros.
And very much deserved considering, the revolution it represents. But I like the fact that it also positions the Finissimo now at a category where it can command and justify a price like that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's important that we put, what I like is the how far we've gone in terms of technology, in terms of working with labs on the chemistry of materials, on all sorts of ways that are really quite advanced these days now. But we see it's applicable to the watch industry. It's exciting.
Absolutely.
To bring super modernity to a mechanical product that is born from hundreds of years. So I very, very much like this philosophy.
Me too, dude. Great to see you, Antoine. And,
thank you.
And thank you, and I'll see you when I come to Neuchâtel.
I look forward to it. I look forward to it.
Cool.
Thanks.
Take care, guys. Peace.